It was only 4 sentences long, because that's all she thought I earned after 8 years of marriage and 2 kids. Miscarriages and every grilled cheese I made for her when she told me work was too much for her to handle. On the wedding gift, stationery, it said that her cousin had given us a monogrammed, cream-colored gift. Her handwriting was still, each loop and stroke was perfectly timed, as if they were still in the act. She needed to be in charge of tearing my life apart. The note was on the kitchen island, held in place by the back door key. About a dozen times we fought. I told her, just hang it by the hook, and she always said something funny. Now I remember, it said, "Grayson, I need something different. I need to feel alive." I stood there in the kitchen with the sun coming in through the blinds, like it didn't know what was going on. "Don't look for me, Tessa." The sun was shining on her coffee mug, which was still in the sink. There was still half of a protein bar wrapper on the counter. It wasn't a wild exit. No bags were thrown, or midnight, no yelling, broken glass, or doors slammed. Just quiet, and that note, that kind of quiet, wasn't peaceful. It was surgically clean and planned. I didn't text, scream into a pillow, or play back every moment to call her. I picked up the phone and called Miles Chen, a college friend, who is now a divorced lawyer. He answered the second ring and said, "Garrison, what's up, man?" I don't know what my voice sounded like, but he got serious quickly and told me to send him everything. My bank information, emails, the lease, anything. I froze our joint accounts and gave her enough money in her personal account to start the process. I had enough savings to live on, but I made sure she couldn't pull me into whatever dream she thought was waiting for her. Then I booked the hike trip. I changed all of my passwords and took my name off of anything that could tie me down to her whims. Every time I told Glacier Point about the one she called masochistic nonsense, I did. She used to say, "Your eyes are already on her phone, and you want to climb for hours just to stare at more. I don't get it." Rocks. Yes, I did, because rocks don't lie to their face for 2 years, don't smile while they're planning their escape, and don't leave notes. I only brought a few basics and gear that I knew I'd need. Over the years, they'd been adding up. I had new boots, a map, and a feeling I hadn't had in months. I didn't even move the key. I just left the note where it was. It could sit there like a gravestone for what we had. When I locked the front door behind me, I didn't slam it. I slid it shut like something was locked in a cage. The only sounds in the north were the hum of the tires and it's been 8 years since I stopped at a petrol station halfway up and thought about how silly it all was. I got sunglasses, trail mix, and a gallon of water, because I didn't want people to see the crack in my personality. I didn't cry or feel nothing. I was just empty, like she had cleaned something. She got the thing out of me and took it with her, but I wasn't going to chase her. She wanted to be free, and I was about to show her what it was really quiet and structured when I got to the trailhead right after sunrise. It was the kind of morning when it smells like wood, and I promise I checked in with the ranger. The sky looks like it's been washed clean. Station filled out the logbook like a worker keeping track of his own time, and then they began walking. The trail was mild. Some parts were steep, but not impossible to handle. My legs hurt and I was out of breath quickly, but with every step the mess got worse. In my head fell behind me. There were no signals, plans, or explanations. Just the sound of boots. Every mile I climbed on gravel, and the wind whispering through the trees made me want to sand away that I was the guy who cleaned the house, heated up takeaway, and called it done while I waited for her to get home. The man who let her cut down his dreams to things that worked for her wasn't coming back for dinner. On the second night, I set up camp under a rocky outcropping with a view of a narrow valley. I made a simple meal. Over a bonfire, they ate beans and rice and looked up at the stars. There was no light, pollution, or noise. Just raw. I took the leather-bound notebook out of my bag and sat down in quiet that doesn't ask for anything. Before everything went digital, I used to write. I saw a blank page and wrote 5 words. She left, I stayed. When I was done, I stood up, closed the notebook, and put it back in my bag. I wasn't fully healed yet, but I felt better. That was something. When I walked back to the base 3 days later, my legs were screaming, and my face was red. I was burned, but I walked differently, head up, back straight, because I wasn't healed. In spite of not being whole, I was awake. Tessa wanted to feel alive again. She had taken that from me for years, without asking. Now it was mine again, and I wasn't going to waste it. When I got home, the note was still on the counter, but I didn't throw it away. After reading it again, I cut it up once, made sure it was clean, and put it through the shredder. I told her to keep the words, and I kept the silence. 3 days, in the mountains, had taken away everything I didn't need. My legs still hurt from the walk. Ascend and descend the slopes. There were times when I wanted to give up, but I didn't. That first night back in civilization, I stood under my shower's hot spray for so long that the mirror got foggy and the water started to cool off. But I didn't step out. I needed the dirt, sweat, and track dust to be gone. I didn't turn the phone on right, which is a mental film left over from years of quietly breaking down to please Tessa. I first sat on the couch and watched the sun go down behind the city. There was too much silence outside my apartment window for it to be real. I didn't miss her. I missed the when I finally turned off the I left my phone on and the buzzing wouldn't stop. It vibrated like it had something to say. At first, it showed a list of missed calls.
Group texts with her friends, the ones she used to smile too closely at. They post our anniversary pictures and invite us to dinner parties as if they had a stake in our lives. Hey Grayson, have you seen we heard from Tessa, and we're worried because we saw something strange on her story. Is everything okay? Could you call us then? The person who wasn't worried was of course Tessa, who was mad that her card wasn't there. That was her first message to me. It wasn't where are you, or can we talk? I saw her in the hallway of a small hotel trying to buy brunch shoes. Or forgiveness with a card that said, I let the message sit for a while, and then another one came in. Had you do something to our account? This isn't what it looked like before. Funny thing is, I didn't answer. I let her words pile up like trash cans left out on the curb. The fact that the filters were off each message made it clear that she wasn't a partner or a woman trying to get back together with her ex. Just someone who thought she could leave the life she helped build and come back as if nothing had happened when she decided it wasn't for her anymore. I turned off the phone again on the 4th buzz. I had made up my mind up there in the cold, quiet woods. I wasn't going to let her change the story any longer, so I left and told her not to come back. That wasn't just a goodbye. Was told me to wear the suit she used to say made me look too serious the next morning. It was a tailored blue 3-piece. I shaved, put on a real tie, and cleaned my shoes until they shined like new. I hadn't worn that outfit since a client's retirement party last year. I saw the builder, the one who wasn't there, in the mirror when I caught the light. I didn't see a man holding to the ruins. I didn't smile because I was afraid of structure, and I didn't need to. Clarity doesn't need it when I walked into Miles Chin's office at exactly 10 a.m. He stood up from behind a dark wood desk, and Focus shook my hand and gave me that curtain nod. He only did 4 war plans. Are you ready? He asked. I saw her walking around with a phone in her hand through the frosted glass of the waiting room. She was already outside. She wore an oversized jumper and makeup from the day before. Her hair was tangled and messy in a way that used to be cute but isn't anymore. When I walked through the door, her eyes locked on mine. She looked like she was trying to hide sorrow by acting humble. She said Gayson, and her voice rose. It was like magnets that she hadn't known still worked. What is this? What are you doing cracked in that fake way? I used to fall for it. I kept a straight face. Miles stood just behind me, like a wall of silence. I didn't yell at her, and I didn't give her tears the air they needed. She blinked like that hurt after I told her I was just following the directions. Like the truth was a slap she didn't expect. You've frozen her accounts, and I fired her. With a clear, not angry look that said, don't look for you. That doesn't pay for your escape. Her bottom lip shook, and I remembered how she used to use that look as a weapon. She'd end fights with a soft cry and a fallen body, and I'd often been the one reaching across to catch her. I didn't reach this time. I didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered. Then maybe you shouldn't have. She planned it, and her eyes got big. I felt a flash of guilt and fear, and I knew it. So she didn't think I'd find out about Jordan yet, or maybe never. She thought that time and distance would make it less important. She was wrong. Grayson, let's talk about this. She tried again. Wait, she said louder. As I walked past her, Miles opened the door to the meeting room without saying a word. You can't leave me like this, she said. But I did days ago. They were walking through the woods in quiet on a trail. That made me feel better than she ever wanted to know. In the meeting, Miles laid it out like a surgeon drawing the first line with a scalpel. No fuss, no drama, just dates, facts. And that's in her handwritten statement that she had left the note after leaving the house, where she had an affair with no judge. Someone with half a brain would call this mutual. When we were done, I left without saying anything else to her. This time she was in the hallway, sitting with her shoulders hunched and her phone in her lap like a dead weight. She looked up with glassy eyes. I paused. That was the first real question she'd asked me in months. Do you hate me? She asked. No, I don't believe in. I won't pay for the lie that I left her there in the quiet that used to scare her. I drove off in my car. I slowly let out a breath, and for the first time since she left, I felt calm. The suit didn't bother me. That was fine, and the man I saw in the rearview mirror didn't look broken anymore. He looked ready to go. Let her send it. 1,000 more messages, but I wasn't going to read them. 6 months after Delilah smiled. Through my firing, I sat in an office with glass walls that looks out over the same city that I used to stare at with my face pressed against the glass, thinking I had to beg my way in. It's funny how time folds back on itself and power changes without it. It was a Thursday in the middle of fall, and the city looked like it was made of gold leaf. Trees with red tips that are bouncing off of glass towers, wind moving leaves in circles. On the sidewalk, not only had my view changed, but something inside me had also changed. I no longer looked out with hunger or desire in my eyes. People outside didn't know the specifics because most people didn't know what was going on. They didn't have to because they already knew that Brantley Holdings had changed its structure and that Monarch Venture Group had taken off. No one saw the logistics scene coming so quickly and clearly. What they didn't know was that the blast had AI didn't talk about it in interviews, publicly, or in a tell-all book. I kept it quiet. Many of my LinkedIn posts were full of cocky metaphors about growth and betrayal. I let the silence take my victory forward. The effects always speak louder than any amount of vengeance. People think justice is loud, but the truth is that it's calm. It shows in the way names are taken off of lists and calls. Stop going to the person who they thought no one could touch them. It's in the shift of power that justice is hidden as a normal contract adjustment. Moves through paperwork, vendor shifts, forgotten access passes, and talks that have to be rescheduled over and over again. Delilah and I hadn't talked since the board deal. Her name only came up when performance reports or PR were needed. Being briefed during an event she was supposed to host, she stayed out of the spotlight. I think she thought I'd notice. Sierra called me when I didn't go after her in public, and the silence was worse than anything I could have said. Sometimes it wasn't often enough to tell me that our names were on more than just legal papers. But those calls were always short because there wasn't much to ask from each other. She knew I wasn't going to call her back.